Stress in humans results from interactions between persons and their environment that are perceived as straining or exceeding their adaptive capacities and threatening their well-being. Lack or loss of control over one's physical environment and social support networks. People who are dependent on others or who are socially disadvantaged because of race, gender, or educational levels, they are at greater risk of developing stress-related illnesses. Other risk factors include feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, extreme fear, or anger.
Do you think stress is a bad thing?
No.
No, I think it's a good thing.
Yes. Very bad. I don't like it, okay?
I think stress to a certain point is a bad thing when it's affecting your everyday life and you can't do basic things without stress interfering.
Stress can very negatively impact students' lives, especially
mine.
high school students.
Stress can have an impact on performance and personality. Most stress comes from expectations of parents, peers, and maybe yourself.
Do you think that you put more stress on yourself, or does your family put more stress on you?
I know that for sure that my family does want me to do well in school, so they do at times when I do slack off a little, like my family does put a lot of stress on me, like trying to get my homework done, but most of the time when it's like almost like the day it's due or something like that, then yes, most of the stress does come upon myself when it's like, especially when I have like a low grade in like one of my classes, that's when most of the stress is calmed all together, and I usually spend most of my time committing to that one class that I'm having a low grade on.
I feel very focused and driven in my schoolwork, which in turn leads me to be stressed about it if I am stressed about it because of the pressure I put on myself to be perfect.
Both ways. It's not equal. A lot of teenagers have a lot of problems with it at home and at school, and it causes a lot of mental illness, like depression.
Causes and symptoms. The causes of stress can include any event or occurrence that a person considers a threat to his or her coping strategies or resources. Researchers generally agree that a certain degree of stress is a normal part of life, which is a response to the inevitable changes in our physical or social environment, and that negative as well as positive events can generate.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you at school?
Most of the time I tend to try to chill out most of the time, try. But then when it's like comes to like a big test or like a presentation that I have to present like the next day or something, then yes.
I'd say like my last 3 years, like freshman, sophomore, and especially junior year, were extremely stressful.
11.
Probably a 3-ish.
Why?
It's very easy for me. It comes very naturally to get well marks in school.
Diagnosis. When the doctor suspects that a patient's illness is connected to stress, he or she will take a careful history that includes stressors in the patient's life, such as family or employment problems, other illnesses. Many physicians will evaluate the patient's personality as well in order to assess his or her coping resources and emotional response patterns. There are a number of personality inventories and psychological tests that doctors can use to help diagnose the amount of stress that the patient experiences and the coping strategies that he or she uses to deal with
I
them.
feel like school stress has had an effect on your mental and emotional health.
Yeah.
How so?
Anxiety. It worsens my pre-existing anxiety.
This is a very bad thing. I hate it and I want to kill myself.
It's pretty stressful to get to bed at a decent hour by the time I get home, homework done and all that. So I'd say my work schedule is definitely a factor of my stress levels.
Prevention. Complete prevention of stress is neither possible nor desirable because stress is an important stimulus of human growth and creativity, as well as an inevitable part of life. In addition, specific strategies for stress prevention vary widely from person to person, depending on the nature and number of stressors in an individual's life, and the amount of control he or she has over these factors. In general, however, a combination of attitudinal and behavioral changes works well for most patients. We want to emphasize that you should get at least 8 hours of sleep per day to be able to cope with upcoming challenges in your day-to-day life. The best form of prevention appears to be parental modeling of healthy attitudes and behaviors within the family.
So it's your last year, in high school. And so what have you learned about stress during your 4 years, and do you know how to manage it? Do you feel like it's helped you or hurt you throughout these years?
Honestly, throughout my years of high school, I've definitely learned how to manage my time well, and kind of figure out how to fit everything in. So it's definitely been stressful, but it's also helped me a lot.
Conclusion. Stress comes in many different forms and affects everyone differently. However, some amount of stress is necessary for growth. Fortunately, there's a lot of treatments to help cope with high amounts of stress. A lot of people go through different amounts of stress in life. No one is alone. There is help you can get from the information we provided. There's no complete stress-free life, but we hope this information gets you closer to it. Thank you.
Have you gotten any help to deal with any of your stress?
I've actually talked to my counselor about it a few times, about dealing with some sort of stress, and I've actually talked to my doctor about it, and she suggests that the more sleep I get, the more energy that I have in school to actually do my work, and the less stress I get from whenever I go home and do my homework. But I've also discussed that numerous times with my counselor, and he also said the same thing, but following those habits that both my counselor and my doctor are suggesting is kind of an issue for me that I'm kind of struggling with at times. So yeah, it's something that I really that I can take in my own consideration and try to improve as the year goes on.
What do you do to cope with your stress?
I practice flute.
You practice?
Flute, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'll listen to music, or I'll play a game for 5 minutes, take a break.